live? It says it is. Okay, so we should be good to go. Cool. So, I guess Kyle led this yesterday, but he's not here. Um, so, yes, do we want to just kind of talk about what we have and what more could be done, how it could be useful, what we ran into, rather than try to do some more work on it right away? Because I know some questions came up on Twitter last night, and Megan was saying some things came up. She was working on it. Talk about kind of the state that it's in and what could and should be done with it.
Sounds good.
So one thing I noticed was that we're not all operating under the same theoretical framework, which is fine, but I think we would want to, if this is going to go specifically with open music theory, we want to line it up with the Kaplan approach for themes and the Hippocaski-Darcy approach for sonatas that's there. If it's just going to be more general, then we could say, like, this is a contrasting period, or a sentence with a statement response, presentation phrase, that kind of thing. Double period versus compound theme, that kind of thing. Maybe keep, maybe we can even have two or three concurrent analytical perspectives going so that it could be useful beyond just Kaplan themes and minuets and binary forms and Hippocaski-Darcy sonata forms. What do you guys think about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think yeah, it's fine. I think the double period, I think those are readily translatable, right? The sonata theory is maybe where there's more of a divergence.
Yeah, I think so. I'm thinking, so there's like kind of two things. One is, how could it be the most helpful for most people? And the other is thinking about, like we talked about the instructors that aren't theorists or that are like new to teaching, making sure that there's not something that's going to confuse them in there. So if they're using open music theory and they go here and then they see like a contrasting period or a double period or something, and that doesn't quite gel with what's in the text, that could cause problems for them. If we could do what Megan suggests, have one that's OMT specific and one that's more general, or we could just make sure that somebody for each chapter is kind of going through and saying, this is fitting this other approach, or we can even separate them within the same Google Doc, or having a separate Google Doc in the same folder, like classical form with Kaplan themes and classical form with like Rosen approach kind of thing. So.
I think even though I'm not really on board with Hippocaski-Darcy sonata theory, I think building the OMT stuff is probably the best use, because that starts to create this package that people could adopt. And I think that was kind of one of the original intentions behind a lot of the things, was to make that a more readily available and usable resource for instructors. So yeah, to like come up with like an online workbook or something. Now the other thing to notice is that like what we've really done is very much closer to the music theory resources text, where you just have links to pieces, and like they're just PDF excerpts. Like they're not set up as workbook pages in the sense where you could just download them. They have instructions on them, and then like spaces on the score to do that. And I imagine that instructors, like, that's the kind of resource that would be much more valuable, but it also is a lot more difficult for us to create. So,
well, that may be something that, so like I created links in there to complete assignment instructions with links to what we were doing. So like I put my sample, my answer keys, my model analyses in there, and I also put, like, here's exactly what the students see for the assignment. With all the instructions, but for my stuff, that's not so much worksheets with things to label as it is these bars in this score. Here, find an IMSLP, listen to it on Spotify, annotate these bars and submit it, and then afterwards they get the key. And so those kind of assignments are, I mean, that you can switch out the pieces pretty readily with that kind of a thing. So if someone's following that framework, that's there. But I imagine it would be helpful if we just kind of keep our own awareness, so that when we're creating something for our students along those lines, we go back to this resource and provide a link once we think we have it polished enough to share. And as much as we can share the source document, not just the PDF, so that it's actually editable, that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was uploading stuff, it was kind of unclear about, it seemed like a lot of what I was adding would be, if I was, say, teaching Sonata Form and I needed an example, here's a bunch of stuff that I could pull from, and here's just like a general overview of the movement so that I could quickly understand it and get on board with it. And then I could, say, give it to students, or that could be something that we could do in class. It wasn't so much of a, here's an actual structured assignment, which I have those too, but it was a little unclear about who the audience for this is. Is it people that just need a quick example and here it is and here's the information I need to grok it, or is this for teachers who are trying to, like build that workbook kind of experience?
Well, Kyle's idea was initially a workbook to go with OMT. And I'm always a little wary about the workbook model. I mean, well, Phil, you know my Glendinning and Marvin presentation from Delaware on that. But I think having I think the idea was largely people who can't just create all the assignments and examples on their own would have a source for that. So I think it's both. In my envisioning for my part of the proposal that got sandwiched together with Kyle's here was that it would be, what's the pre-class work, what do you do in class, what's the follow-up homework, what's the end of the project kind of thing. And so that's a lot to just kind of throw up as a community. It needs some editorial curation to get to that stage. But if there's enough there that someone could sit down and say, okay, I'm not starting from scratch, I'm actually, I've got something that I can work with now. For my students, here's the kinds of homework assignments they'll be doing. Here's the kinds of in-class activities they'll be doing. I've got plenty of pieces to pull from. I think if we get to that stage, that's already a big help for a lot of people, especially for Sonata Theory, where people not using OMT will want just like some complete sample analyses that are useful for students, even if it's just expositions or exposition recap things, because there aren't a lot of those floating around out there, or a list of what pieces are really easy as first two-part expositions, or your first continuous exposition, or a good tricky one for a final exam or something.
Yeah, it seems like a workbook is kind of like this middle-level thing. On the one hand, you could have something just like the Tonal Theory Examples website for larger-scale things, right? Because, I use that lots. And I don't like workbooks. I don't use workbooks, but I go to that site just because I need to find rep. And what I like about it is it's just scores and recordings, and it doesn't lock me into the way that anybody does anything else. And so I'll take it and use it my way. You take it, use it your way, and everybody is happy. On the other end, what you're talking about of like saying, what do we do beforehand? How are we going to use this? How are we going to follow up? Is almost like creating an instructor's manual to go with Open Music Theory or something, right? And that gives so much more context than just a workbook or a worksheet on its own, right? And it seems like the more contextual, rich, version, or just the minimal have the score, or both of those seem more useful to me than having just an assignment floating on its own without talking about how it's going to fit into a larger, experience for the students.
Yeah, well, it's not 100% complete with all the details, so we need to teach it. I also put a link in there under, I think, the Intro to Sonata Theory to my course assignment list, like the daily, here's what you're doing every day in between class, which a lot of it is like in class we'll be looking at this piece, so please listen and answer these questions first. And so there's kind of a one way that you could go through sonatas just looking at the last like three or 4 weeks of the semester. So yeah, I'm wondering, do we want someone to be like the curator of this stuff who will try to compile, like here's that instructor's manual, or here's that set of progressive assignments or something, or do we want to have it organized just enough that without adding tons of work for any one individual to do that, it seems to be enough that people can take from it what they want, but it's organized enough that they can figure out what might or might not be useful?
I wouldn't mind it being more flexible. I know sometimes I just need a quick example, and I don't want to have to sit and figure out everything from scratch from a blank IMSLP score. I just need to know what this piece is about and know it in 10 minutes and be able to do something with it, as opposed to just having a list of pieces. And sometimes I don't need, or don't want the, here, let's go through this, and then you can assign this, and then you can talk about this. It's, sometimes I think the flexibility might be nice.
I like the latter idea that Chris suggested, just for that reason. It's not any burden on one person, and it's not. It's got that kind of flexibility, like musictheoryexamples.com.
So there's also a lot of articles. There's I think someone just published in the CMS journal like a taxonomy of sentence structures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was at the SAT for that. Is that who was that? Was Michael Baker involved in that?
I'm not sure. There's also for the Sonata theory stuff. Brian Allegant's article has a really good list of pieces that are good intros to Sonata form for students. It's in his Listen Up article. It's JMTP as well. But.
And do we want this list? I mean, right now it's a lot of repertoire, but would we want to pull things from, say, MTO or Spectrum or other places that could be digestible for multiple levels of students and get both repertoire and a reading list?
I think all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, what I think would really be good here actually would be if, Matthew Santa, that's what I was thinking of, not Michael Baker. Yeah, I was at SMT when they did something with that. I think it would be really helpful is rather than try to come up with one main or one set of a few approaches in this resource, have people at the top of the document linking to their course website or their syllabus or whatever, that like each individual instructor's way that they put it together, so that there ends up being maybe a handful of them that people can go and look to as potential models or starting points. I personally, I don't want to ask anyone to like curate all of this, and I don't want to do it myself. But it would be good to have a plurality of options out there. That it's just, okay, I built my class. I had to build my class. So here's my unit guide on Sonata from my class, link to the document. Anyone wants to look at it, they've got it, and they can make whatever tweaks they want to that. Use that as a starting point. I doubt anyone's going to follow someone else exactly anyway, but having a good starting point where it's like, okay, if you're going to do 5 weeks, you can do what Chris did. If you're going to do 4 weeks, do it like Phil. If you do 7, do it like Brian. If you're going to skip, dealing with recapitulations with sophomores, like look at Chris's stuff. If you're going to dig into, development sections. If you really want them to hammer away the development stuff, look at Brian's stuff. And, if you're going to do it before or after pop rock, if it's going to be your first large-scale form topic or your last large-scale form topic, there's different approaches. So I think if we have a few different syllabuses or approaches in there, it's going to be potentially better and easier to curate, more options for people, but they're complete. Oh yeah, quarter system, combined theory and oral skills classes. Is that showing in the Google Doc?
This is starting to sound like a project that's going to need some curation and time.
Yeah.
I mean, but
that's okay.
That's the beauty of having like all these smart people on board. If we crowdsource the time aspect, like, can we Like if it's just resource amalgamation, we're doing a great job of that. Categorization could get a little trickier, especially if people are using different sort of approaches.
But that's why I think if each of us as an instructor is curating our course, and we're drawing, and this is just a place that we dump stuff in a relatively organized way, but we're dumping and we're retrieving. And then the curation happens when we make our course. And then at the front of the document for that chapter, we link to our course plan, our syllabus, or our series of assignments, or whatever. Then we've got, I mean, the curation work that needs to happen is already happening in our course design, but we're giving people a plurality of options of different curated ways to do this, so that it really just becomes a matter of someone making sure no one's spamming the Google Drive folders. And then if there's a dispute, we can work out the dispute over things. But the beauty of Google Drive is the version control. We can always roll stuff back. And yeah, I think it could be a big project, but I also think it could be a pretty painless one if the hard work of curation is no more than what we do for our own class and then add a link.
Yeah.
That idea of annotation is good, like a short annotation, whether it's like how close it is to the model. I mean, even
Or
just
even, here's a Sonata form, here's the basic gist of it, but hey, there's a great Italian augmented sixth chord in bar 47. So that way, at least if you're going to this resource, and you can always hunt for circle fifths or Italian augmented sixth or Neapolitan, and then you could at least get other examples that you could build on. Okay, we looked at this piece last week as a good example of an Italian sixth chord. Let's keep looking at it and broaden our scope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where the Open Music Library possibility, if that gets together, could be really helpful, because then you have a node that's a piece, and then we have this piece is good for continuous exposition and a different exposition type coming back in the recap, and Italian augmented sixth chord, and a sentence with internal expansion. And then you link to those concepts, which then has the list of pieces that are all tagged with that concept. And that's something that someone else is getting paid to build, and we just need to put the information in. He and I are going to talk about what we have here as kind of a starting point for things he could import into that. So if that takes off, that means the hard, the heavy lifting, the technological labor is taken care of, but we're getting essentially an annotated list of pieces, as well as here's a concept, what are the pieces? And I think both directions could be good. Like, I'm looking for a piece that would be good for a big assignment, but it can't include this, or this, because we haven't covered that yet. And so you can go to the list. Or I just want a piece that has, I want 3 continuous expositions that aren't by Haydn. And let me find one, or find something for class, and they can go to that list. So if that technology is going to be built, that makes it really easy. But otherwise, I think just going chapter by chapter with OMT and saying, here's a piece, and then as we list that, kind of like you were going, Megan, and putting all of your details in there, for my kind of annotated scores, we can just write a little note saying, watch out, this piece has this weird thing in it, or this is a great example of X.
Or maybe if we could just code a series of tags, have an excerpt and let's say augmented sixth on it, or deceptive cadence, exposition, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's something that if we want that to be really organized and user friendly, there's going to be some tech building. So if the Open Music Library project does take off, we can take advantage of that. But otherwise, I think just little notes. Yeah, if we had, I don't know if you want to have a list of the things that we would want to note, the pieces that we're thinking of, Like Neapolitan core would be something that, like, if it comes up, it'd be good to know what pieces have it in it.
Sounds like we need a database.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like even a pretty traditional way of doing a database, even just a spreadsheet where you can kind of sort by the different things, right? You have a column for Neapolitans, and then you put in like the measure number where it happens, or something, right? And then
It's basically like Burckhardt anthology.
you can filter it. Yeah, well, exactly. It's exactly what we were talking about with the Burckhardt anthology. Just something that's cued into the concepts in classical form that we're teaching nowadays that are not covered in something like the Burckhardt, and something that's dynamic as opposed to a published book that is,
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think the set of Google Docs that go with chapters in OMT and a full-on database with tags and links are, well, they're two very different projects in terms of workload and administration. So I like the idea, at least for now, of just having a set of Google Docs, one for each big section in OMT, with a heading for each chapter in the Google Doc, link to the page in OMT, and then as we come up with examples in class that fit with that chapter, we dump them in here and write a little note about why it was good for that use, or what features it had, or what pitfalls or what fails came about as a result of using it. And then, if someone wants to take on the database building, or if OML ends up providing the framework that we need for that, then that would be an easy community-driven creation of a tag database system.
Well, even if you, even as your like annotations, if you would just have something to say tags : and then list some of the key terms, and if you just did a word search for Neapolitan, you'd pop up at all the places these pieces that have it. So we wouldn't need to go full-on database to have, some of that stuff there.
Yeah, so do you want me to put a document in that folder that is my list of the concepts that I identified in OMT as I was going through? The idea was that those would be kind of the tags in Open Music Library, or at least the starting point for building those. So I could just have like chapter 0, here's tags. Keep these in mind. If any of these things come up in a piece that you're putting in, use these words and then we can search for them.
Yeah, and even if we don't have that list ahead of time, like if we know, we're putting a piece in there that we see, oh, it has a Neapolitan, I can just put tag : Neapolitan, and then if you've got a different label, or if you call it flat 2 or whatever, then like, all right, well, we'll just have some.
That's where that is, and I can dump it into that folder actually. Just make a copy. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to dump it in there now.
This is the Public Resources 2015, the online unconference, or?
What? Okay, I just put it into the OMT Supplemental Resources folder.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in Public Resources and OMT Supplemental Resources. So OMT concept tags. This was thrown together pretty quickly, but it's basically each chapter, the things that seem to be terms or skills or concepts that are identified there or defined in there or important to know. So we get to form. There's like theme, phrase, presentation, continuation, antecedent, consequent, CBI, BI, CI, sentence period, hybrid, compound, suffix, extension, subphrase expansion, phrase expansion, all that kind of stuff. And so those are things where, like, I think those would be good things to identify pieces for. So we've got the chapters for things like sentence period, hybrid, compound, but then for extension, expansion, the formal functions, like presentation function won't just be presentation phrases. That also comes in basic ideas and consequent phrases. So having those as a list of things that we could tag things with. or just put in parentheses after a piece that we're uploading would be good. Because then we upload the piece under Sonata Exposition 2-part, but it's also got a nice K545. It's got the sentence for the exposition, and it's got a continuation phrase that's got a harmonic sequence that's an expansion of a printer, and so having all those things tagged together would be good without putting the piece in there 12 times.
Mm-hmm.
So does everyone see that that file? It's like Phil's in there with me, but
Hang on.
so it's in the same folder as the classical form page. I shared it on our website.
Right. It's multiple tabs is not really happening for me right now.
Yeah, my thing just crashed, but I got back up.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anna's point about multiple terminologies, I think, is a good one. I think it would be good to have a list. I mean, I've listed things here the way that they appear in Open Music Theory, and so if we can stick to that, so that it's the same term that's in the textbook, and every time it comes up, we're listing it the same way, that'll make it a lot easier to do a find search in Google Drive to find those examples. I mean, it can be as simple as like spelling Neapolitan with an O instead of an A, or mistyping Napoleon, or getting close enough that autocorrect makes it Napoleon Court, will make it hard to find. But if you are, renaming things, or if you just say expansion, and I think Brian differentiated subphrase and phrase level expansions, and it'd be good to have the same level of specificity. I don't think we need to tag every piece as a major chord, do we? Or a beam or a tie, but maybe pieces that have creative uses of them are really obvious, good, for example, be worth tagging there.
Yeah, and like depends if you're already talking about phrase, you're not going to need to talk about like 4/4 meter and stuff like that. That's like
Right.
more appropriate. Right.
But I think we have an idea of the kind of things we need to find examples of that are not just like, well, duh, I open up any score and there's the passage in 4/4. There's a key signature. Now, if we had a heading for 3/1, I really try to push my students to know all their meters in like every bottom number possible. And I've got like 3 or 4 pieces that I put on quizzes that have 1 as the bottom number. It's just part of my trick of like saying, the bottom number is irrelevant to the meter. And so I always have to throw in some of those, like 32 or 1 on the bottom.
I think I'm going to have to jump out of the chat because this is like taking forever to even get anywhere.
Okay.
So I'll just try to find you in the doc.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got about a half hour left. So so do we want to start putting some tags on the stuff that's already there?
Or do we want to talk about what we might do for the other chapters? Because I know Tim was desirous of having a good structure laid out for the whole textbook so that as we go we can insert things. I mean, it may be as simple as just adding a Google Doc and pasting stuff in like we did, and then we add stuff as we go. But I don't know if we want to talk about any kind of procedural ways to do that.
Sorry, I'm not sure I'm completely following what...
So we want to make sure we have a plan for the whole big project, rather than, as opposed to do a little more work on this particular unit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, in reference to Anna's comments, if our plan is whoever wants to, as they're making class decisions, they can consult what's there, and if they find something for class that's not there already, just put it in when you think of it. I don't think it needs to be too much more of a thing than that. And if people are using it, whoever's using it are going to be there to notice that something's going wrong. If we get a spammer or someone deletes something they shouldn't delete it or something, then we can address it. And if no one notices,
I thought you were going to give edit privileges to all the email addresses in there, and then view privileges to everybody.
Yeah. So I'll do that, but as we go, like more people can ask for privileges to contribute, and so it'll get kind of big. I mean, I think this could be just a self-policed thing. When we have time, as we're making our course plans, we just try to remember to dump any new things we come up with into the document. Does it need to be more than that? Actually, I'm going to put another heading up here. Just for like where we could put syllabuses, course website links, things like that. Because I had put mine in the middle there, but I think it might actually make more sense at the top so people can see big stuff. But I think if we have that in each chapter too, that's where people can go and see how we put it together on a larger scale as opposed to just here's a list of pieces, examples. Because I think both of those are important for people to be able to use these materials, that they not just have, okay, I have a plan for my next 5 weeks, what pieces and assignments do I need, but also what plan could I make for the next 5 weeks if I'm doing this.
Yeah, if we could come up with some kind of way to bounce off of what Anna's saying, something that maybe we can start with a little bit of a dump, but then can just grow as people use stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, if there's some kind of clear instructions or there's some kind of clear format for everything, then it's easy to add as you go.
So just like a paragraph at the top saying this is what this document is for, please do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we do that now?
Sure.
Or you guys want to talk about something? I could do it, or Megan and I could do it. So while we're here right now, let me take care of the sharing thing. Let's see. Edit. Okay, I just sent editing privileges to y'all, so I'll delete these. And then and if other people want it, we'll put that in the instructions. If other people want to edit, they can contact me for privileges. Otherwise, I think I'll make it so everybody else can comment.
Yeah. Anna just kind
For
of...
now, I'll just leave it as it is so we don't get confused. We don't get, hey, who did that?
I think we should, yeah, I know it's just saying to have different web pages for each topic, like one for rhythm, harmony, things like that.
You mean like for different Google Docs?
Yeah.
I think we're going to do a Google Doc for each big section on the Open Music Theory table of contents.
Okay,
There's
cool.
one for fundamentals, one for strict voice leading, one for harmony, classical form, that kind of thing.
Perfect.
That way it just mirrors the table of contents really easily. Go back and forth.
That sounds good.
Let's see. Oh, I want to quote something here because on the About page on Open Music Theory, I wrote very specifically that this is meant not to be at the center of the course. The student work is. And so I'll just kind of say as an explanation. So what kind of student work does a course go with? And so these are resources that we've put together for those kind of courses.
Do we want to switch to chatting in the actual document if we're not going to be doing much more talking on Google Hangouts?
Um,
And then we can work there and then.
whatever you want. I mean, I'm fine keeping it on just so we can talk while we write if we want to. I'm
Okay.
not doing much of that, but I'm almost done. But whatever people want to do is fine with me.
Okay. I might log out just because the overheat problem. If so I'll like Brent, I'll put something up on the Google chat if. But you guys keep talking, or not. All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Link to this. Yes.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good.
Anything good for you today?
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Have a nice one.
Thanks, you too. Shoot. All right, so that was okay. So who's still in the chat? Guess we've basically just been broadcasting me talking to the study student picking up recycling. But so should we wind this down? What time does our last session start?
1?
4 Eastern time, so 1 in the
Yeah,
West.
so 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll push that back. I closed the schedule document. What is this? I'm going to talk Phil and Bryn back in. There's Phil.
Hello.
Probably best not to capture my ranting and raving about the publishing industry on Archived Hangout.
Well, as an alternative, Robin Wortman and I, gave a presentation about hybrid pedagogy publishing at Emerging Technologies for Online Learning, and that was recorded and it's on the internet somewhere, and we do a little bit of that. So
yeah, but they already know about you, Shaffer.
yeah.
You're on the list.
Yeah, I'll just be surprised when they eventually stop sending me stuff. I don't know.
Chris, did you freeze? Are you? They took him out. Somebody call him. Make sure he's okay.
Say, yeah.
Oh no. He said Hangouts is heating up. I wonder if his computer just crashed. Yeah. Oh, funny. Well, did we want to take a 10-minute break before the final anyway? There he is. Oh, maybe.
Sorry for being able to make a copy run here.
Yeah, do we want to take a 10-minute break and then come back for the final session?
Sure. Do we want to recap this real quick first, or after that? Make sure that we're all on the same page.
I think a recap now would be good while it's still fresh.
Okay. We do that for like 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll.
Sounds good.
So I changed the titles of the documents we have to have like part 0 for just the general stuff, part 1 for fundamentals, then we can do 2 is whatever's next. I think it's voice leading, 3 is harmony, 4 is classical form, that kind of thing, to keep it organized with OMT, and that'll keep it in order in the like alphabetical listing. And I moved the instructions to its own document. Did you guys look at that? Does it look okay?
The instructions look fine, I think.
Okay, cool. And I linked to the concept tags document from there. Just asking people to tag you those if they can. And, yeah, so hopefully it'll grow, and we can publicize that maybe once we get skeleton documents for the other chapters or something.
Put it on SMT Discuss.
Do that too.
Yeah, and it'd be really cool. We could throw PBLs in here. I mean, you could even have categories for like in-class activities.
Hey, Chris.
If they're a little more structured or homework.
Have we just inadvertently tried to like stomp on JMTP's grounds again?
Yeah.
As I recall, they have, isn't it JMTP Online has like exactly this kind of resource, but it's behind a paywall?
Yep.
Yeah, because it's behind a paywall. It's not only hard to access, but it's that's discouraging submissions, I think. So it doesn't have a lot there. I don't know how much I can say about conversations I've had with people. Probably nothing. But conversations I've had with people there about other ways in which things can be done. But I'm hopeful that something might open up. But I think that's all I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think this is, kind of like with engaging students, it's a different enough thing. I mean, this is, we're not editing, there's no peer review here. This is just, who's got ideas, throw it up on there. It's
wild and chaotic and intentionally so.
Yeah. Well, and trying to get just a little bit of the right structure in the chaos so that it can be navigable. But on the other hand, it's also kind of like the index of several books that we have just kind of smashed together. So, I think it's enough its own thing. We are recording this, so, we can speak freely.
Maybe we can delete the part about me calling it Music Theory 4chan then.
What this is? I don't.
The document. Never mind.
Oh no.
I'm just gonna back out of this one slowly.
Yeah. So I think. Is there anything else we need to say? Make sure we're.
Okay, break and then final.
Yeah.
4:10 or whatever your time zone is.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
That's good.
Cool. Just keep the same chat. I'll just mute everything. Should we do that?
Yeah. Great.
Or no, let's make a new one because it's a total new topic that'll be easier for archiving.
I think
Okay.
that's Chris.
Cool. All right.
Bye.
I'll post the link in a few minutes.